What up? Okay, so today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys a quick sound design tut. This is my take on a gritty sort of Subtronics style bass. I want to show you guys the techniques that I use to do this. It's very easy, pretty straightforward, and it only uses a couple of plugins, mostly Serum. But it's mostly dependent on the technique. It's less dependent on the wavetables or anything else. So I want to show you guys the technique that I use. I really like the sound that I get, and I've been using it more and more. Yeah, so anyway, we're going to open Serum here, and I know you guys don't have these simple FM wavetables. I don't know where I got them. I think they were free somewhere. Because you don't have those, I'm not going to use them. I'm going to pick some random ones. We'll go like Reese Mess 2 and then Squelchy FM. So I have no idea what these sound like. But they are off the rip, they already sound pretty fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load in my rhythm shape. So it looks like this. It's just one of my preset shapes. You can recreate it just by, setting these points here and then adjusting the curves to look like this. And I'm going to put this on the wavetable position of this first oscillator real quick. Going to turn off this oscillator for a moment. Off the rip, a pretty cool sound, not going to lie. We'll go over to oscillator B, and I'm going to turn the level down on this, and the reason being is because we are, of course, going to FM from B. So we'll set the, FM. And I'm just going to find a nice point somewhere here, usually between like 30% and 70%. That sounds good. Sounds pretty cool, so I guess we'll stay there. Now I'm going to turn on my sub, okay? And I'm going to make sure that my sub's octave is set to the same octave as oscillator A. So for example, if I were to have turned this down, I would want to turn my sub down as well, but because I'm playing a bass note on my keyboard, I don't need to worry about that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to drag this LFO1 onto the level of the oscillator A as well as the level of the sub. Cool. Now I'm going to gently turn down the parameter of this level so that the sub is doing a little bit more of the lifting here. 75-ish should do there. Great. Now that's pretty much it for over here. We're going to head into the FX tab for a moment, and not hyperdimension, excuse me. We're going to turn on the distortion rack, and I'm going to set it to Stomp Box. This is my favorite of the distortion parameters. And I'm going to turn this drive up pretty hard, maybe not 100%. I'm going to start at 100 and then pull it down. And I like that big barking sound that we're getting. Now, the one thing that I'm not so thrilled about is just that our sound's a little bit too snappy, so I am just going to pull this out a little bit, this rhythm shape. And that sounds a little bit wider and fatter, so I'm happier with that. All right, now, I'm done in Serum for the time being. I might go back in and do something with a filter. For example, I could try, let's do high notch 12 and go something like this. It'll set a notch that's going to come back down towards the high pass. Sorry. I don't even really want that right now. I'm just going to turn that off. Okay. So what am I going to do next? I'm going to grab a G clip. And let me reset that guy right there. So as you can tell, we're pretty far away from the ceiling here. So we're going to just push the gain up into that ceiling a little bit. So now as you can see, we are at that ceiling in Serum. Oh, real quick, sorry. Forgot about something. I want to make sure that the phase randomness is turned all the way to 0. And then I'm going to scrub around in both of these oscillators and just figure out what phase position I like best. That sounds good. I like that a lot. So as you can tell, it creates different tones depending on where you set the phase position. All right, Now that I have this up at my ceiling, I'm going to push the gain into this a little bit. I'm going to turn the softness up a bit first, about 50%, and I'm going to really just push this guy into the clipper. We're going to clip the shit out of him. Cool, sounding good. Now one thing that I'm noticing is that the sound is just a little bit too fat. There's a bit too much sub. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to pull this sub guy down a little bit. Just as I pulled this guy down to 75, we're going to pull this guy down so it just feels a little bit less subby. I want more of this oscillator A to shine through. Because what is happening is that the sub is pressing against oscillator A in this distortion rack, and that's what's making it sound like a blown out sub. As we pull that sub down, this guy will have a little bit more breathing room, and it'll sound like this guy's coming back into the mix a little bit. That's good right there, just about 80. Now another thing that I forgot about that you can do is if you would like to set the LFO1 on the second oscillator, oscillator B here, on the wavetable position, you may absolutely do so. So I actually like that sound. We're going to work with that. You could also use any of these parameters if you incline. You know, set an ASIN. You could set a mirror. I actually like that a lot too. It's just whatever you want to do experimentally to get a different tone out of this B oscillator. So let me see if I want to press it into this clipper anymore. That sounds pretty good. Nice and blown out, really heavy. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab an EQ3. And this is for the dispersing that we are talking about. So I have a rack for this. It's this guy, Crank Dad EQ3 Disperse. I'm not going to use him simply because I want the perfect amount. So I'm just going to keep duplicating these guys and then pressing a note until I get a sound that I'm happy with. Maybe go like 2 more. So as you can tell, that adds a little bit more softness back into the sound. It sounds a little bit cleaner now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a Camel Crusher. I'm going to go to British Clean. This is kind of optional. At this point, the sound's pretty much done. Like you've already got the majority of the sound. This is just bonus. That sounds a little bit too blown out, so I'm actually not going to use that this time. What I am going to do is I'm going to get another G clip, just set it right here. But before I do that, I'm going to put a utility in right before the G clip, and I'm just going to gently pull the sound down. So as you can tell over here on our meter, we're clipping. When I turn on that G clip, I just want to gently turn this down a couple decibels, to where it doesn't sound quite as harsh. We don't necessarily want the clipping after we get past this point, after we get past the disperser. Great. Now we'll grab a dimension expander right here. If you don't have dimension expander, it's free, so you can get it. But alternatively, you could use the Theorem FX dimension tab. It's the same exact thing, made by the same exact guy. I'll turn that dry wet up, and then I'll just bring the size down gently, see if I can find something I like aside from 0 point. Great, and that's pretty much it at this point. You can adjust it, you can tweak it however you would like if you want to. Oh, excuse me. If you want to adjust the LFO and stuff, you can do that, of course. You could use completely different wavetables. For example, at this point, just about anything will sound good. You could swap out entirely. Go like, again, I said I wasn't going to use those. Let's use these. as you can tell, it still sounds beefy as fuck and super juicy. So, but yeah, that is my take on the Subtronics style gritty bass, the cranked out way. And yeah, hopefully you guys found this enjoyable and get to use that sound in your productions. Thanks for watching. As always, excuse my massive stutters on this video. See you guys next time. Bye.